Okay, so let's start. Good morning one more time. My name is Karolina Delesza-Smalec. I'm the president of the National Federation of Polish NGOs in Warsaw, in short, ofop. The National Federation of Polish NGOs has 160 members, which translates into around 1 million citizens being associated in our members' organizations. ofop has over 20 years of experience in monitoring EU funds, and together with our member organization, ofop has been monitoring EU funds since the pre-accession period. This panel is organized together with our member organization, the Polish Green Network, and the Polish Green Network is an association of independent environmental NGOs in Poland. Before I will ask our guest to join us here, I would like to invite everyone to watch a short clip that will introduce our panel's main topic, which is non-tangible benefits from the implementation of the Cohesion Policy.
Niematerialne korzyści z realizacji polityki spójności. Kryzys finansowy 2008 roku, kryzys migracyjny, Brexit, COVID, napaść Rosji na Ukrainę, erozja systemów demokratycznych. To tylko niektóre wyzwania, z którymi musieliśmy się zmierzyć w ostatnich latach. Co stanowi o sile Unii Europejskiej? Nie tylko kolejne programy wsparcia finansowego, ale przede wszystkim silna potrzeba jedności i solidarności. Pewien mindset, świadomość, oparcie na tych samych wartościach. Polityka spójności, jako jeden z najważniejszych instrumentów wspólnoty i nie tylko, wyrównuje nierówności gospodarcze i społeczne, ale też ma wpływ na tworzenie fundamentów Unii Europejskiej, wspólnych wartości. Dzieje się to na bardzo różnych poziomach. Od angażowania różnych instytucji i osób w programowanie, wdrażanie i ewaluację działań finansowych. Przez budowanie poczucia solidarności, tak istotnego zwłaszcza we współczesnych czasach. Po upowszechnienie standardów i dobrych praktyk w obszarze praw podstawowych. Polacy są jednym z przykładów społeczeństw, które w zdecydowanej większości zachowują pozytywny stosunek do Unii Europejskiej. Jednak jak pokazała sytuacja w Wielkiej Brytanii, ryzyko zmiany takiego pozytywnego nastawienia zawsze istnieje. Jak zatem wspierać fundamenty ideowe Unii Europejskiej przy wykorzystaniu istniejących już instrumentów polityki spójności?
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted and honored to welcome our guests, whom I now invite to take their seats. We have already Anna Drabasz on the stage with us, and in alphabetical order, I would like to ask Mr. Carlos Mendes to take the seat, Anelia Stefanova, please, Stefano Palmieri, and Thomas Woban. Okay, before I will ask the first question, I would like to introduce our guests. Maybe I will start from Anna Drabasz, she is a lawyer, researcher, and activist expert on human rights, European Union law, and the EU funds. Anna, she conducts research on anti-discrimination law and social and legal aspects of disability. Anna is a member of the boards of the Polish Disability Forum and the European Disability Forum, president and co-founder of the Podlaskie Assembly of the People with Disabilities. Since 2021, she has been a member of the advisory panel of the Office of Democratic Institutions and Human Rights on the participation of people with disabilities in political life. From 2020 to 23, at the Ministry of Funds and the Regional Policy, she was an expert on the implementation of the European Accessibility Act into the Polish legal order. Just next to the Anna, we have the Professor Carlos Mendes, who is a director at the European Policies Research Centre at the University of Strathclyde in Scotland. He was educated at the University College London, the London School of Economics, and the University of Strathclyde. Carlos is an expert on the EU cohesion policy, and he worked on a wide range of research projects for EU institutions, including on citizen engagement, communication, and media. And just the next, Anelia Stefanova, who since 2014 is BankWatch's program director. She's also representing a BankWatch in the Green 10, the coalition of leading environmental non-governmental organizations working in Brussels. BankWatch has 15 members groups in 13 countries, yes, in the Central and Eastern Europe, the Caucasus and Russia. The network works with partner organizations from Africa to Central Asia, monitoring publicly financed projects and promoting environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable alternatives. Just next to Anelia, we have Thomas Woben. He joined the European Committee of Regions at 2012 as Director for Horizontal Policies and Networks, and he's currently the Director of Legislative Works for the Commission for Territorial Cohesion Policy and EU Budget, COTER, Committee on Economic and Monetary Affairs, ECOM, and Commission for Social Policy, Education, Employment, Research and Culture, SEDEC, within the Committee of Region. And just next to me, Mr. Stefano Palmieri, member of the European Economic and Social Committee, member of the Workers' Group in this committee, and Vice President of the Section for Economic and Monetary Union and Economic and Social Cohesion. Stefano, he is a representative of the European and International Policy Department of the Italian General Confederation of Labour. And we invited also Madam Femke Grempelz from the European Commission, but unfortunately she can't come because she has some health issues, so sorry about that. But I think so that we have the great panelists with us, and just let me introduce a bit our panel, the topic of this panel, and then I will start the question. I will ask this question to our panelists. At the present, not only the European Union, but the world more broadly is facing a global perma-crisis. We have to deal with the effect of deepening crisis of democracy around the world, with polarized society and immense inequalities. Sadly, we are also witnessing the rise of anti-European forces that seek to exploit these challenges and use them to their advantage to undermine European solidarity. We have a war raging at our borders, a war that threatens all our European values and beliefs. We have to deal also with fast technological advancement, which we fear we may not be able to fully control, even talking about AI. Also a huge misinformation and disinformation campaigns which make the world even more unstable. Last but not least, we are facing more and more severe consequences of the climate crisis, which has impact on our economies, on our cities, and our societies more broadly. For all these reasons, we think that it's important to take a step back and to go to the roots of the European Union, which was built on the ruins left by the World War II. And so we have devoted this panel to the question, what can cohesion policy do not only to strengthen our economies, but also what can it do to strengthen our societies and our democracy? In this panel, we want to discuss how cohesion policy and its intangible effects can help us address the current problems we face. This is why we invited our guests who have long-standing experience and can bring different perspectives into debate. It was so important for us to have you. So one more time, thank you that you accepted the invitation. We have here the panelists from academic world, civic, administrative, institutional point of view, and this is something which we will discuss. The plan for this panel consists of 2 parts and a final recommendation round. We will have the moment for you to ask the question or to make some comments. First, we will ask our guests what, in their opinion and from their perspective, are the key non-tangible benefits from cohesion policy, which should be maintained and reinforced in these challenging times. And then we want to hear from you, as here in the room. So we will open the floor for the question and comments, as I said. So referring to yesterday's keynote speech done by Marshal Szymon Hołownia, if indeed hope sells better than fear, what can give us hope? And my first question is to Carlos. Carlos was leading on the development of a research stream on citizen engagement and communication at the European Policies Research Center. The research was underpinned by EU Horizon 2020 projects Cohesify and Demotech on the impact of cohesion policy on identity and on democratic innovations, along with studies for the European Parliament on the visibility of the cohesion policy and multilingual communication. Carlos, first, could you briefly tell us a few words about the research the European Policies Research Center has been doing when it comes to the relation between cohesion policy and identity? Does cohesion policy impact citizens' identification with the Europe and the European values in a positive or maybe in the negative way? The values which underpin cohesion policy are solidarity, equality, rule of law. Are we communicating these values effectively? And what is it that Europeans appreciate the most about cohesion policy? How important is cohesion policy in shaping a positive image of the EU? So I give you the floor, and 5 minutes is for you.
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and we appreciate the invitation. It's been a really interesting discussion the last day. Okay, so we did a project called Cohesify, which surveyed citizens on this very question on identity. And the question was about whether you feel European or whether you feel just your own national identity, so whether you feel Polish or whether you feel in between, both Polish and European, or the other way around, European first, and then Polish, of course, in different country contexts. And I guess the good news was that what we found, running a statistical analysis by my colleague Gabriela Bors and Heinz Brandenburg, that the answer is yes, that cohesion policy can contribute to a European identity. That is your self-identification as being European. But it depends on certain factors and works through certain mechanisms. The most important is that those citizens that perceive benefits, both for their region, but more importantly for themselves, are more likely to have this positive impact in terms of their identity. A second was just awareness of the policy in itself, and in particular the Cohesion Fund, the bigger fund, which obviously funds big infrastructure projects. And the third was more about communication, so whether you have seen banners or the EU emblem on projects and actually seen concrete projects on the ground through this advertising, that also plays a role, a more minor role, but a role. And that works through 2 ways. One, through a direct effect on your feeling or self-identification with Europe, but secondly, in terms of increasing your actual awareness of the policy itself. However, we did not find that these mechanisms worked in terms of your self-attachment or your deeper feelings of effective love, if you like, of the European Union, a more emotional attachment. We didn't find any strong effects there. Of course, this was a snapshot study done in 2017-18, so things can change, and it didn't model longer-term temporal effects. So I think that was the main finding in terms of identity. We also spoke to people on the ground running focus groups who also tended to have a positive understanding of the contribution of the policy to collective identity. The second question was more about whether the values of solidarity and also rule of law are communicated. I mean, you can see from the Eurobarometer surveys that actually there's somewhat low awareness overall of the policy and the projects that it funds in local cities and your local community. So 40% of citizens across Europe overall are aware of projects in their local area, but it varies widely. So in Poland, there's far more awareness than all other countries. I think it's closer to 80%, and on the other extreme, 15% in Denmark. So this varies. But of those that are aware of the policy, the majority think it's good, that they think that they do benefit from the policy, in particular for their region, but not necessarily themselves. So in terms of this solidarity, I think that there's more to do in terms of raising awareness of the policy in terms of the survey analysis that's been done. You mentioned the rule of law. Is that communicated? Well, it is, but it's picked up a lot in the media, especially national newspapers in the media analyses we did. But it tends to be quite polarized. It leads to, if you like, citizen debate in the comments sections of newspaper articles, or indeed in social media, on Twitter that we analyze, that's quite polarized. There's a lot of negative and positive comment. Of course, Twitter is by definition polarized and more negative than positive overall. So the question on rule of law, it sparks mixed and quite lively debates amongst citizens, and also reporting by the media, which tends to be a little bit more negative than positive overall. But that's in the nature of the media, to attract readership and audiences, of course. Sorry, can you remind me of the final question? Was more about the positive image of the EU.
Yes.
So there are also studies on this, on public support for the EU, and they do also tend to show that cohesion policy does contribute to a positive attitudes to the EU, political support for the EU. But again, it depends on the citizens perceiving benefits, both for themselves and for their region. So overall, that's positive. Andrés Rodríguez Posse gave a presentation a few minutes earlier in the panel downstairs, and his research also shows that receiving more funding in regions is inversely related. So there's less support for anti-European political parties when there's more funding in those regions, especially in certain types of support like social infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carlos. Yes, this cohesion policy is very close to the citizens. That's why it's very often the face of the European Union. They recognize that this money is from Europe, and hopefully they understand that they can somehow benefit from this situation. Thanks very much for that. And now I would like to ask Stefano, from the perspective of the European Economic and Social Committee, what are the key non-tangible impacts of cohesion policy on the European societies? On this conference, for example, we talk a lot about strengthening EU by making its economy more competitive, but we also needed to think more about making EU democracies stronger, also by making EU societies more equal. Are the goals of achieving better social cohesion and advancing EU economy by strengthening its competitive advantage contradictory? Do you see such risk here? And are the mechanisms in cohesion policy that could help us to strike a greater balance between the social cohesion and competitiveness? Please, 5 minutes.
Thanks, Carolina. First of all, let me congratulate with the Polish presidency for the organization of this very huge conference with many food for talks. Well, I think that we shouldn't make in competition cohesion policy from one side with a competitiveness priority. Because if we see the less developed regions or the region with weaker competitiveness are the same regions. There is an important report, Regional Competitiveness Index 2.0, that give this map of the low competitiveness region, and are the same region with lack of cohesion. We can see the Mediterranean regions from Portugal, Spain, Italy, and Greece, the backbone of the eastern part of the European Union, with Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and Poland, and with the Baltic states, some region of the France and the German in the eastern part. So I think that are the same region, but I think that if you want to make an investment for the competitiveness, you have to direct this investment for high-tech sector, knowledge-intensive services, and these enterprises are in metropolitan area, are in big city. But if you want to invest in cohesion policy, you have to invest to take account less developed region that are the border region, the vulnerable region, that are highland and so on. So I think that we need to take in count the asymmetry of the development. This is an important aspect that we have to remember. In these 2 days, I understood many times the word security. But I think that for this reason is important the social security also. For this region with the lack of the development, there are a lack of general services, general public services. There is an important map from Epson that give, for example, the distance between different kind of regions and the important public service like hospital, like doctor, and so on. For some area, the rural area, and the internal area, the distance between hospital and the local area are 20 kilometers. 20 kilometers for this area in many parts of Europe are not linear, but you have to have mountain street and so on. So the time become 40-45 minutes. And this time is the difference between the life of the dead for some sickness like heart attack or arrhythmia. So this is what I want to say is we need to have a particular attention for this area that have lack of the development. Competitiveness and cohesion are the same, are two faces of the same coin. But there is a big difference. With one surface of this coin, you can buy the half of the goods that you can buy with the other face of the same coin. And this is not absolutely fair. So we can speak for this region about competitiveness, but before that we can give to this region the level of basic public services, and in this way they can be attractive for the competitiveness.
Thank you. Thank you for emphasizing this aspect. It's so important that we need to think not only about those who have the strong position, strong place in the map of Europe, but also about about this one who are living in the small villages and the territoria as mountains territoria or the islands or somewhere here in Poland, very far from the capital. That it's not only that we will have the investments in the biggest places, but we have to think about our weakness places. And here you can see the notes. We have here with us the graphic designer, the illustrator, and she will do this somehow graphic notes during our discussion, during the moment of your questions, during the responses, and then at the end you will have the opportunity to take the picture, so don't worry, it will be the work in progress, and we will see from time to time the result of our discussion. But now I would like to turn into Thomas. Thomas, we know that according to a 2023 Eurostat study, 66 of the EU citizens recognize one of the instruments of cohesion policy. In other words, this is how the EU citizens in the regions come into contact with the EU policies. Knowing that, how can we use this fact to our advantage? How can cohesion policy help us to strengthen local democracy? What are the key mechanisms and tools of cohesion policy which we should not only keep, but also make stronger from the perspective of the committee of the region you represent?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much to this topic, because we tend to think in cohesion in funding terms, in investment terms, but cohesion is an overall value of the European Union. It has not really, it's not just a financial concept. In fact, it is not at all, because cohesion is togetherness. The European Union is based on the voluntary agreement of us to work together. We have no instrument to force us to work together. So if we don't want to work together, we will not work together, and then the whole thing will not work at all. So cohesion is a fundament of the concept of the European Union, that we are stronger together also in the future. Why do we have to answer this? Because it's pretty obvious that if we are doing things together, that we are stronger in this sense. Because cohesion is challenged at the moment by different ways of thinking. One way of thinking is one level of government knows it better than the other, how to achieve competitiveness, how to achieve the transition, and so on. The second is people don't trust each other to work together in this way, also between the different levels of government, but also within communities. The third is, and we had it in the morning, we have a school of thought that thinks places don't matter, because you can't change places anyway. So we only focus on the sectors. We're looking at competitiveness, can we invest in more battery factories, how can we invest in more windmills, and so on, and not really looking at the places. And the places is where the real life happens, where we live together, where we communicate. And we have agents in these places which are crucial for the European Union, like, for example, for the Committee of the Regions, of course, the local mayors, the local elected politicians. If these local elected politicians don't see themselves as the first level of the European Union, of the whole, and which are most trusted politicians for many people because they know them, they can talk to them, they can vote them out, and so forth, then the European Union loses its foundation. And this is what is happening at the moment when we see the debate about should cohesion policy focusing only on the big things, because if we are not connecting it to the people on the ground with finding place-based solution, people will say, what is the added value of the European Union? Carlos, you mentioned about the identity and the love. I love pop music, and one song is "You Can't Buy Me Love." And that is also what is the truth. You will only get identity if people are taken seriously, if people feel that they can actively participate through their elected body, through their NGOs, through, let's say, engagement in the society. And that is why cohesion as a value is also about cohesion as a value of our society and of our European Union. And that is what we tend to forget sometimes in the discussion. Cohesion is important as an investment tool, but it means nothing if we are not at the same time do it with the conviction that it helps solidarity, but it helps also to make Europe a better place for everybody. And that is what we need to re-engage, because then you can also engage citizens in this process. If they've been taken seriously, if they feel that it's up to them, that they are empowered to find solutions. And when you see at the big strategies we are discussing in Brussels, they all need place-based solutions, solutions on the ground, on migration, on security, on quality of life, on social development, just transition, competitiveness, and so forth. So that's why connecting these dots again can only happen if we trust the level closest to the citizens to be the driver for this change. And that is at stake at the moment, because some people think it's too complicated to talk to the 230 regions or to even the several thousands of local authorities. Let's only talk about with our member state. Let's only reduce it to one program for collaboration. Without accepting that Europe is different, that it is diverse, and that it needs the listening from the top to what is really needed on the ground. Also for empowering people, give them rights, but also make sure that these are succeeded, that they are really implemented. And that is only possible if we have a joint understanding that the European Union is a system of multi-level governance, that the local level is the first level for the union. If the mayors lose trust in the union loses trust of the most trusted politician to be the contact partner to the citizen. And listening to difficult situation on the ground is more important than to have a very glossy strategy, which then in the end doesn't work out because the people are not there. You can't buy love. What you can do, of course, money helps to keep love alive, but if you want love, you need decency, you need commitment, and also passion for making life better on the local level. And that is what the essence is all about. And we tend to forget that, because cohesion has been seen as an old-fashioned policy, but it is the essential part of keeping us together. And if we don't want to don't nurture it, Europe will break up. And we have this, Rodriguez-Posay in many speeches said, we are one election away from breaking up, because we have enough parties who say, I don't want this anymore. We are in a post-factual world where people tell stories. Social media is making it difficult to really find the key message. And that's where the interpersonal relationships play a key role. And that's why Europe needs this human face of local elected politicians working together with NGOs on the ground to make this happen.
Thank you very much for that. I think that all of us, I hope that we feel that we are talking not only about the future of the cohesion policy, what we are doing, but we are talking about the future of Europe. What we will have in the few years, how this, let's say that this right-wing radical forces, anti-democratic forces, what they would like to do with Europe if we will not stop it, if we will not turn this perspective to start to talk about the cohesion policy. I even noted cohesion as an EU value, talking about the values of Europe, which is not only the agreement about the markets, but it was the idea how to live together on the continent based on the values we believe that all of us we share. Now we know that not all of us, and we have even the external influence to somehow divide the people in Europe. And at that moment when we are working, I think all of you probably you are somehow engaged in this process at the many levels. This is something which we can have influence now. And the shape of the cohesion policy will be decided now, but it's so crucial, as I said, not only for the policy as such, but for the future of us and the other generations. But now I would like to ask Anna Deabash. I want to go back to democratizing effects of cohesion policy on standards on public life. Obviously, one of the key elements of the cohesion policy is the compliance with the EU Charter of the Fundamental Rights. So from the perspective of the people with disabilities, which you represent in different forums, especially in Poland, what have been the effects of cohesion policy on fundamental rights? I remember that in one of the meetings, you made the remark that cohesion policy has been a revolution for the people with disabilities in Poland. Can you tell us a bit more? Have the cohesion policy standards been adopted beyond cohesion policy itself? Please.
Thank you and good afternoon. I think that I'm heard. Yes? Yes, fine. Okay. Thank you for this opportunity to share Poland's experience from the civil society perspective, because this is something different, I think, when we look from regional or local point of view, from individual point of view, and Carolina knows well that I'm a great fan of the cohesion policy, and I still claim that it meant revolution to our community. I mean the community of persons with disabilities. But what I mean by revolution, it's not something like a dramatic or sudden changes, because what we've witnessed through the cohesion policy in Poland is perhaps even more remarkable, because it's like a quiet revolution that has fundamentally transformed how we understand and implement fundamental rights. You already mentioned that we came from the point where the projects funded by EU were to be in line with the principle of equality, non-discrimination, including equal opportunities for persons with disabilities. And at this point, we are in the framework that requires from the whole system compliance with not only the Charter of Fundamental Rights, but also with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And for us, for me, that's a huge leap, because right now we are not talking only about horizontal principles. We are talking mainly about enabling conditions that should be checked while planning, while managing, and while monitoring the whole system. And that should be a kind of an ensuring factor for us that we are respecting the fundamental rights of humans, not only persons with disabilities. And why I call it a revolution or a silent revolution, because before cohesion policy in Poland, accessibility and disability rights were often seen as charitable concerns rather than fundamental rights, and the shift began with something seemingly simple, because we are talking about something that is maybe more tangible. I mean, accessibility. But accessibility is not only ramps or induction loops or, as we can see, the Polish sign language interpretation. It's also about mindset. It's also about the change of seeing who should be around us. And for me, that's the change, because it's not only that I see more elevators, that I can see more requests in the forums if I had any additional needs, but it's also that I see more persons with disabilities in the streets, in the conferences, at schools, in higher education institutions. And of course, we can say we can do better, always we can do better, but right now also the cohesion policy was the point of entering some new legislative reforms in Poland. In 2019, the new law on accessibility that should be ensured by public administration entered into force, and it wasn't required by cohesion policy, but it was an effect of gathering expertise, of gathering right people, partners from NGOs, from public administration, that decided this is important. We should make it our law, not only the requirement when we are getting funding from EU. So this is the first effect that I wanted to underline, but there are some more spin-offs from cohesion policy. As you can imagine, already we've had like hundreds of projects funded by EU that were concerning persons with disabilities and also the environment or institutions that support the community. But at the same time, there were some groundbreaking ones, like the ones that were to gather knowledge and find new solutions when it comes to introducing disability rights. And I should mention that in December last year, we had two draft laws that were developed during EU-funded projects on our table when it comes to governmental legislative process. One is on supported decision-making and the other one on personal assistance. So you can see that these are like crucial parts of independent living for persons with disabilities. And I can see even more such effects. Maybe they are not at the same extent as those one visible, but there are changes even in smaller communities visible and tangible. Yeah, because when we talk about non-tangible things, I assume that we always can feel them or we can see them somehow. So this is just for beginning.
Okay, thank you. And now I'm going very quickly to Anelia. Recently, there have been many criticism of the green transition and the calls for review of these policies. So today I would like to focus on a case study that can present an example where the benefits from civil society can potentially be huge. So we want to close our opening round by going back to local democracy, an issue which has already been discussed by Thomas in the context of the local government. More specifically, I want to ask you, as a person who specialized in environment policies, if the energy transition can also help us to foster local democracy as well. Here I have in mind one particular instrument which cohesion policy can help us to make stronger, that is energy communities. Can you tell us more about this instrument and its democratic potential? And we have, as you can see here, our graphic notes in progress. So Anelia.
It's getting very well populated, so I'm glad. And first of all, thank you very much for organizing this workshop, especially to ofop and Polish Green Network, and especially also to the Ministry of Funds, because indeed it's a very important topic. Over the last 2 days, basically, I heard a lot about so-called non-tangible benefits from many speakers, many politicians speaking about values, about trust, about hope. So indeed, cohesion is a lot more about this type of non-tangible benefits. But I would like to speak more about the tangible aspects of a non-economic type of, or traditionally economic type of activities which are financed and supported by cohesion policy. And with that, I wanted to say that Bankwatch is a network indeed of environmental NGOs across Central and East Europe with 20 years of experience of monitoring cohesion funds. And recently, we expanded our area of expertise in the last years, also monitoring just transition funding and also the recovery fund across 18 countries plus Italy and 30 regions, 30 just transition regions. So in fact, what I'm saying today is also based very much on this on-the-ground experience of how EU funds are spent every day. We have more than 100 projects we are analyzing in terms of what are their transformative impacts. And my area works specifically on energy transformation, as you said, but we want to look at what are the transformative impacts of investment to really enhance the cohesion, enhance the challenges which was mentioned by previous speakers. So indeed, these tangible effects are often the improve of the hope and trust between people, and also innovation, social innovation. I'll speak about energy communities as a social innovation type of method. But also efficiency and better absorption. I mean, and just allow me to make just a small excursion to say that another type of non-tangible economic investments which cohesion policy do is often in instruments which are recently promoted like just transition financing. I mean, financing for just transition regions where the investment is important part, but much more important part was place-based planning, which was exceptional in across 93 regions across Europe, and where you had examples of solutions today which are very innovative, looking at transforming the culture, thinking about with the hope what this transition would bring to these regions. And another type of exchange which was financed and supported by the cohesion funding was the just transition forums. I mean, it's exchange of practices between the just transition regions, and Commission also recently also started the Cohesion for Transition Forum, which exchanged again good examples of energy transformation investments across different member states. This is another example where the exchange of practices brought much faster acceleration of the transformation, because we don't need to learn the same lesson in each country, in each region separately. We could basically accelerating that by exchanging experience and repetition, or translating some recipes in other countries in a different way. And back on the energy communities, it's a regulation from 2019 on the Renewable Energy Directive, which allows citizens to be in the core of energy transformation, which means that citizens could be part of the not only be prosumers, but also the one which make demand management at local level, coordinate and work on providing solutions also for the local energy supply and management of the demand, which is crucial for, let's say, balancing infrastructure needs we have currently, like we spoke about that yesterday. So not many countries, but like few of them, like Poland, decided to invest in energy communities. This is really was an important step, and we've seen that sometimes you could have a very positive type of initiatives which are really low cost, supporting feasibility studies, supporting university to develop and work to reach out citizens to become actors, because it's not very easy to have this social type of innovation to really organize a village or few villages to work on their demand management on energy and production, and you need a good scientific and technical expertise for that. So EU funds, cohesion funds in that case was really crucial to accelerate this process of thinking and designing, providing opportunity for citizens to understand the benefit of that. And today we could see that this could be a real motor of accelerating the energy transformation in many countries. I mean, I said Poland, Italy, Greece, Spain was other countries which decided to have a bit more investments in the energy community. So this is type of of projects which could be and initiatives which could be addressing also in the future our need for more costs and more investments in the education awareness, which is very crucial for making cohesion working in practice, as previous speaker said. And wanted to flag that one day before the conference, we had the opportunity to meet with number of civil society organizations from urban sector, from social sector, to discuss what are our vision for the future of cohesion. And we developed demands, which we shared with Polish presidency on that, which in fact speak a lot about obviously the bigger investments we might have in the future, but also about the many non-tangible type of investments which need to be done and could be enhancing the efficiency of the cohesion, the trust of people, and bring cohesion closer to the people, which is very, very much what we need.
Thank you, Anelia. I think that we can find the document on the website of the Polish Green Network. Yes, so Polska Zielona Sieć, if you would like to read it. As all the speakers respected the time limitation, thank you for that. I will have even a chance for the second round if you would like to make some comments or to add something to the previous speakers. So feel free, so even 3-4 minutes if you would like. So please, Thomas, you can start.
Yeah, at the beginning I spoke more about the values and about love. I wanted to just add what makes cohesion policy so special. It's the only policy at the European Union where the region, the local level, is in the driving seat. It is at eyesight with the other levels to negotiate the planning, the implementation of these of the funds on the ground. It's not like in the RRF where you make an application. And when you always make an application, you are not thinking about what you need, but how to win the application. So you use language you normally wouldn't use because you think, what is the way how to get the money? And I always say, when somebody says to me, oh, the chance to get the money is 5%, you will not apply the really most important projects because you will not take the risk only for 5% success rate to do. So these projects are often projects nobody really needs as essential because the risk of not winning is so high. So being at eyesight with the other levels based on shared management, which means also shared power, so that the local, regional level is empowered to say no and to be involved in it. The second thing is based on partnership, not only partnership between the different levels of government, but also partnership with the non-governmental sector, with the citizens, civic society and others, which also forces the local level to think beyond the public policy domain. And the third thing is, of course, place-based. and an alignment with European rules and regulation values, like Anna, you said about coming into terms the standards, the rules which we set at the European level, but also to apply them in a sensible way on the ground. That makes cohesion unique. And it is always under threat because it takes time, it is complicated, a lot of people are involved, you don't know when you start, where you finish, and it is, let's say, always in alignment, but with the adaptation in the way that it is really needed. And if we don't accept this reality from the top, then we haven't really understood how real life works on the ground. And that is why it's always under threat from simplification, from simple solutions, one-size-fits-all solutions, and looking at the big things. Because in the end, as you just said, it's not always the big things. It's the change of mindset. And I give you a very concrete example. I'm coming from a Germany where public administration has a long tradition. But cohesion policy had forced them to think in a different way. In the past, a public sector was doing with a cameralistic way of spending money. They got money per year and they spent it in the year, and success was whether the money was spent or not. In cohesion, you have to think ahead. You have to have an ex-ante impact assessment. What do you want to achieve? You need to have a performance framework. What are the standards you want to achieve? So you make also public policy more accountable to the citizen. So this innovation in the way local sector is involved is also going much beyond cohesion policy, because it has been now a general applied tool for many national and regional policies. And I think that is the treasure of this policy, and that makes it so relevant and so popular on the ground. Everybody knows cohesion. Every mayor knows. Like in the student world, everybody knows about Erasmus. In the cross-border world, Interreg. And that is where the benefit of it is. It is popular because people are taken serious as partners at eyesight to develop their own fate in this.
Thank you for these important words. And yes, I even noted that, yes, all of these partnership principles, that we have so perma-crisis and many challenges, and it's not true what the populists would like to tell us, that there is a simple solution for the difficult problems we are facing, but the cohesion policy is an instrument which we can help us to somehow respond to the needs of the local people, the citizens, those who are who we would like that they still believe that the European Union is the best future for all of us. Who would like to continue? Is anyone? Carlos, please.
Thank you. I think Thomas has covered most of the points. If I were to add or agree rather, I think it is critical to compare cohesion policy with other EU policies, and what would happen if there was no cohesion policy. There would be demands to create a cohesion policy. We've seen in the RRF that there were challenges in implementation, not consulting regions, getting the targets wrong, having long negotiations, problems in audit and control that were not supposed to be there, but are now there, with two different systems working against each other. So there is a need for a cohesion policy, and there are clear non-material benefits. I share the list, the multi-annual programming approach, the strategic and long-term focus, which you don't necessarily get in other policies, the long-term administrative culture impacts on monitoring, evaluation, performance frameworks, transparency of data, which you don't find in many other policies as well. So there's a long list. I'd say one gap, which I think your presentation, your talk highlighted most, is not involving citizens directly in decision making. So I'm not referring to local mayors or levels or other actors or even NGOs as such, but involving citizens directly could be done and isn't really done across the board democratic innovations are used all over Europe. They're used in Poland, citizens' assemblies, citizens' juries, even referendums. Participatory budgeting is not applied in cohesion policy and could easily be applied at the local level. In Poland, you vote on projects in local authorities. That could be done, and that's an obvious way to directly involve citizens in policy making, which would empower citizens, allow deliberation, allow discussion about these populist forces that we've been discussing. So there's an obvious gap that I think cohesion policy has been discussing and debating, and there's been studies on this by the Administrative Capacity Building Unit and to try and spread some best practice, but it's very patchy and small scale and could easily be institutionalized with regulatory change.
Anelia, if you have the microphone.
I wanted very much to follow also what Thomas started to discuss, and thank you indeed for pointing the citizens' participation, because in fact, I mean, we see that cohesion policy brought the participation and certainly made the culture change in many of the countries. Poland is a very good example where you have the citizens representatives like civil society, which is for us a direct contact often with the citizens, having a seat in the monitoring committees, having a voice in the monitoring committees, contribute to the more active discussion about what could be the good solutions, because solutions of yesterday are not the solutions for tomorrow. So we need to really look for innovative and comprehensive and also holistic approach, solutions which are really looking at energy transformation, but also respect the the fundamental rights principles, because we could not afford to just invest in one area without thinking for the rest. So for us, this is the best way to achieve that is going through the public participation, and also bigger transparency about what and how the funds are spent, because as you said, Thomas, money are power, and if we leave it in certain, like obviously there's always a tendency to nationalize it or to leave it in few hands. But if you democratize the decision making on investments, you would have also more options to get the better solutions or place-based, innovative, and more efficient solutions, which sometimes are very also economically more viable and cheaper options. I do agree with the previous speakers that in fact we have to we do need to have some changes in the cohesion, but we should not be throwing the baby with the dirty water, as we said in Italy normally. We need to learn the lessons and go ahead, and certainly simplification is crucial. We would need to have better rules, because many beneficiaries currently have a difficulty to access cohesion funds, and especially when it goes to local level, to more marginalized regions. So we want to have a simple rules, but this don't mean give up on certain standards which are avoiding bad investments, avoiding no long-term thinking, not corruption, and also transparency. And what we also need is more support, operational costs for the local governments to grow, because we've seen it in just transition process. When you have a political will, when you have local governments be active part of the process, you come to something which is completely different. And last but not least, I mean, we need to have involvement of civil society, because these are the contact between the policies and people, often, and translation of what EU policies should, what they should do on local level. So civil society often are there for this non-economic type of actions and work and awareness and promoting and language and trust building, and which is crucial part of economic investment.
Thank you. I'm looking at Stefano. Anna, do you want to?
I would like to make 2 points, because one is referring to what Thomas said about implementing cohesion policy in a sensible way. This is very important at this point when I look at the disability community, because we are facing the time when even public administration is sometimes not sure how they should implement fundamental rights. For example, the principle of independent living and the institutionalization, because it means that we should ensure supported housing and social services in local communities. It's not that easy in Poland because we are still basing on huge institutions when it comes to daily support of persons with disabilities. And at the same time, we can't say that tomorrow they should stop existing, right? Those big institutions. We need to find a solution that is sensible. So this is very important to me, that we are looking for ways together with public administration, with local governments, and first of all with persons with disabilities that will benefit from the new solutions. And the change won't happen from day to day. And the second point is, I would like to, referring to this, I would like to underline how important it is to see also rural areas, because today we talked a lot about urban areas, but rural areas in Poland are really specific territories. Myself, I come from the same region as Marshal Hołownia, so from the border region Podlasie, and it is mainly rural area, with villages where are mainly older or persons with impairments that can't easily transport themselves to bigger cities. So this is something that we take into consideration as well, that those solutions should see also this context. Thank you.
Thank you. And Stefano, please.
I think that cohesion policy is one of the most important European public goods. As yesterday, Vasco, the president of the Committee of Regions, said that if you read the Article 2 of the Treaty of the European Union, the target of the European Union is peace, its value, and the well-being of the citizen. And to do that, the European Union shall do, it's important to think, shall do make economic, social, and territorial cohesion. Is so important, the cohesion, and for this reason, Jacques Delors understood that the cohesion policy is the cornerstone to build the European Union. In 1993, born the internal market. In 1994, born the cohesion policy, because Jacques Delors understood that without cohesion policy, internal market cannot survive. The cohesion policy is the valve, the security valve, to give all the benefits of the internal market share with the citizens of the European Union and among the different territories of the European Union. But there are also other European public goods. In the Article 3 of the European Union, there is also another mention. The European Union shall do strengthen the competitiveness of the European social market economy. So this is an important aspect, and for this aspect are very important the social, environmental, and economic standard for the European Union. I think that in the Draghi report and the competitiveness compass, and not in for example, in a Letta report. In these two reports, they lost the territorial and social dimension of the competitiveness. Seems to me that, it's economy. Let us work. And after become the development for the local area, for the territorial development, and for the social, to solve the social question. No. The social dimension and the cohesion dimension are crucial for the European Union and for the competitiveness of the European Union and other things. I think that in the next multi-annual financial framework 2028 to 2034, we have to choose different European public goods and different priority for the European Union. I wonder how is possible to facing all these challenges with 1% of the GDP of the European Union. Think about that we reach the 1.8% of the EU GDP only because, unfortunately, with the COVID-19, we had the Next Generation EU. So I think that it's a big issue, and the next months will be very important to defend the cornerstone of the European Union, the cohesion policy, because we have to take on mind another map. I'm sorry that I remind all this. There is the map of the discontent of the European Union. A map many of you know very well, where there are the growing rate of extremist party, far-right party in the European Union. And if you see the growing of this party at the regional level, and you can see that are the same area where there are problems of lack of competitiveness and lack of development. So I think that we need to improve our cohesion policy. We need to understand the people that are in the ground, and it's important the involvement of citizens, civil society organization, trade union, all the stakeholders that know very well the area where they live and where they work. For this reason, it's important their involvement to strengthen the principle of the partnership and to strengthen the principle of the multi-level governance of the cohesion policy. And the next months will be crucial for our European Union. Thanks.
Thanks. And we had the opportunity to hear from our panelists. Thank you for that. In various ways, cohesion policy can help us somehow to make EU stronger and foster democracy. We heard about the challenges. We heard about the rules we have to respect. We heard about the roles of all of us as NGOs, as social partners, local authorities, as politicians, as administration, that we need to have in our head this attitude and this feeling that is a crucial moment for Europe, as Stefano said. But now I would like to open the floor for the round of questions and ask if do you have any questions or comments regarding the intervention made by the panelists, or are there any other aspects of cohesion policy which should be raised? If you see something, please feel free to say that. Depends on the number of people I will give the time. So maybe please, Krzysztof Mrozek from Polish Green Network. Krzysztof, 3-4 minutes for you.
I think 3 or 4 minutes is too much. Thank you very much, Krzysztof Mrozek, Polish Green Network. In the beginning of this panel, on the margins in my notebook, I made a list of things that I thought should be raised, to raise it during this part. And I think this panel was excellent because I crossed out each of my points because you mentioned it. And I'm even happier that these voices that we share in the Polish Green Network or environmental organizations came from different types of stakeholders present here in the room. So when we tend to criticize Draghi report very often for too little focus on this territorial aspect, you are more. There's one Draghi, and there are so many of you from different types of stakeholders that I think we have a great chance to convince European decision makers that cohesion policy is needed and has to be continued with improvements that you mentioned. But there's one aspect that I wanted to raise, which is in our recommendations. I have a few copies on me, so I will be happy, yes, to hand them over. How to create more of this added value to cohesion policy, how to incentivize more non-tangible benefits. And one of our recommendations is to prioritize supporting investments that have this horizontal environmental and social benefits, that dimension, but also like this effects and benefits, like energy communities that Anelia mentioned, with the limited funding that is available, they should be prioritized. But then you may ask, okay, so the whole European Union debate now is about strengthening competitiveness. So how do we jointly finance this social aspect and increase competitiveness? And we also recommend that we do this exercise at the programming of the new MFF, that we map investment needs and available tools for funding. So we have grants, we have financial instruments, we have means to mobilize private capital, and we do this exercise before we plan spending for the next MFF. And last thing I wanted to say is that these are not just NGOs and international organizations that have this vision of cohesion policy strengthened in the next MFF, because also the Polish government prepared their position calling to strengthen the cohesion policy. So I believe that Polish presidency can really bring added value to this discussion on how to implement cohesion policy post-2027. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If there's anyone else who would like to make a comments or question, I see here the hands.
Thank you very much. I feel a bit obliged to speak during the panel. I'm representing Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy in Poland, so the organizers and the Polish presidency, and I would like to congratulate the organizers of the panel and all the panelists. It was extremely interesting because often when we speak about cohesion policy, we speak about numbers, about amounts, and somehow we may sometimes we can lose all the spirit and all the other values that are behind this policy, which are tremendous, and all of you have mentioned it several times. And indeed, we see it, and we see that the big budget is an important for cohesion policy is an important issue. But all these principles that are attached to cohesion policy and that are governing cohesion policy are equally important. I mean, multi-level governance. I mean, partnership principle. This is well. I had it was said. I think it was during the hearing organized by ECAS, the golden principles of cohesion policy, and I totally agree that without it, the cohesion policy wouldn't be the same and wouldn't bring the same effects as it does. So it's just a comment. I don't have a question. You have raised a lot of very interesting aspects, and thank you for that.
Okay, I see, Thomas. Okay, so let's start to react, and you can think if you would like to add something, someone else, please.
Yeah, just an example how it shouldn't be done. Yesterday, for example, the Commission President invited the CEOs of the automotive industry to a strategic dialogue about the future of the automotive industry, and none of the automotive regions were there. You know, the transition takes place in the places, and when you have a big car-producing plant or a supplier, and they suddenly release 2,000–3,000 people, it has a tremendous impact on the territories. So discussing the transition of a sector without the regions is crazy. When we talk about ecosystems, or when the European Union talks about ecosystem, very often they mean a sector. For us, an ecosystem is a place. There's a fundamental difference to that. And we are in a battle of this fundamental difference. Do we talk about places, or do we talk about sectors? Do we speak with the CEOs, where each site is just a figure in an Excel sheet, or do we talk about the place and what it means? And the second point, and here I will we are among ourselves, so I can be a bit open. The Green Deal has been a regulatory project over the last 5 years. Now we have to make it work on the ground. A lot of the assumptions which were done when we made the rules and regulations have changed. We mentioned about the war next door. We have different global environment. To make it work is a chance for local democracy and local solutions. Because at local level, it's about, are the buses on time? Are the buses there or not? Is the water price going up or down? So it's more about, yes, doing the right thing. And that is a chance. We need now to do the right thing on the ground, to find pragmatic solutions for this. And pragmatic solution also means to indicate when things can't work because of the legal framework, then we have to adapt the legal framework to make it work. Because if the citizens don't see a win-win, they will not support the whole thing. They will say, where is it coming from? Oh, it comes from Brussels. Oh, I don't like this, so I'm against Brussels. And then, if that happens, all the money, you can't buy love. You can't buy this if they don't feel serious. And that is the big challenge we have. We will need local solutions for all these kind of things, and we need to be willing to adapt to make these local solutions work. And for this, of course, the principles, the golden principles are essential, but they need to be also lived, not just announced. So we need a stronger code of conduct for partnership and multi-level governance. We need simplification, because what is also true is that local NGOs, local civic society, do not have the capacity to understand all these kind of very abstract terminology and so on. So we need to invest in capacity building and to make it simpler. And we have to also have an understanding that not everything will run correctly. We have to also have a healthy understanding of error. Because if we don't, how can we find out what the right solution is? If we do 100% security projects, we will not solve it, because we don't know what everything in the future is. And the last thing is, cohesion cannot do it alone. We need effective decentralization. If in a country there is not an effective decentralization, you cannot expect that the local regional level is able to deliver what it could deliver if there is not, if the co-financing is not there, if they don't have the capacity to act. To be very frank, in some countries we have too many local authorities. We need to also have critical mass. The role of mid-sized cities in delivering the services for the rural areas is very crucial. That's why I was a bit uncomfortable with this debate in the morning, where we said cities and rural. It's the mid-sized cities who make the territorial cohesion work. We will not be able to have a public school in every small villages, but we have to support the mid-sized cities to deliver it so that the distance is still in an acceptable sense, and particularly in areas where we have shrinking cities, which is the case in quite a large part of the European Union. So this kind of things we have to bring back. And then it's also up to the local level to really find the adequate solutions. And there might not be all so green and so easy as we think sometimes in Brussels. And I think that needs to also be understood in the future.
Thank you. Anelia, please.
Yeah, I mean, we still believe that the green cohesion is possible, and I think just to say that, but we also strongly believe that this cohesion only is possible when it's local one, and indeed, if many of the legislation which was approved in the previous period was also to cope with the big delay we have on climate aspects. I mean, it was said yesterday, Europe alone would not be able to stop the climate change. Climate change is already advanced. We all hear and see the impacts of climate change economically. It's also, the cost of inaction is really high. I mean, insurance companies already are starting to show that. So all this legislation, which was done in a bit probably in a hurry, was to cope with that delay. But in the same time, I mean, like, I agree, the biggest problem is that this need to be translated at the local level. And local authorities need this help and support, and that's why we also, in our statement, demand and promote that they need to be more capacity at local level. I agree, every country is different, and this could be sorted how and what level exactly would be but we see local actors not having data, not having enough knowledge, and also people with whom to design the strategy and to involve the citizens in the process. So there is a shortage of administrative capacity, which was discussed this morning. I agree very much with Mr. De Michelis that there is administrative capacity in many places, especially in mid-sized cities, smaller cities, rural areas. And we saw it with the Just Transition process, where you go and speak with people about, okay, phasing out industry, which in some regions are giving occupation to 80% of people in this region. And you would ask people, how you imagine your future? I mean, first thing they would like to see is education, good education, access to health system, to public services, which was mentioned by Stefano, to be able to stay and to enhance their talents and to really promote other solutions. So sometimes our automatic response, and what Just Transition Fund initially was promoting, was that we should be financing looking at one industry replacing another. Yes, in some cases it might work, but in many cases it might not work. So this is the reason why we do need to have give help to the local authorities to engage citizens and discuss what will be the solutions and design goals and proposals which are really targeted to the area and to the beneficiaries which are in the area, and support measures which would help people to access these goals. It could be one-stop shops, could be energy experts, could be the services again provided by not the very fancy companies which know how to access the EU funding. But we have solutions. It's not that we don't have solutions for a more simple type of EU management. Also, again, with the caveat that we need to be really looking long-term and helping people to understand what these long-term challenges are.
Thank you. I'm looking if there is anyone from audience who would like to take the floor or make a comment. At the same time, I encourage my speakers, if you would like to somehow react or to answer the question asked by Krzysztof Mrozek or the intervention of the representative of the ministry. At the same time, we have this graphic note, which is almost finished, I think so. We'll have at the end, I think that it's not comfortable, especially for us to look at it and even to read, but then we will have the opportunity to do the photo, because it's so difficult how to speak about the cohesion policy, and even more difficult how to do the pictures about the cohesion policy. And when we prepared this panel, we wanted to think how to talk about the cohesion policy, not only from this obvious perspective of money, but how to bring some various perspective. That's why our guests are so, how do you say, different, from different perspectives, from different points of view, just to make sure that that cohesion policy is something which is not only about money. And as we are recorded, don't forget about it, and we will have the final conclusion after this panel. So everything what was said will be somehow, not everything, but the main conclusions will be noted. So I hope that, and I believe that it will be some assumption for those who will decide about the future shape of cohesion policy to take it into account. So thank you one more time for that. I don't see the other questions. So maybe it will be the moment for the last round. I asked my panelists before to think what is the most important recommendation for the next programming period. I asked to be very short, but if you would like to somehow take more time, because we have still around 20 minutes, so if you would like to tell what, from your perspective, if you would like to mention, to emphasize something crucial as recommendation for the future programming period, for the future cohesion policy, please say that and it will be noted. Attention. Who can start? Stefano? Okay. Thank you.
I think that we need to follow the indication from Letter report. Follow the fifth freedom of the internal market, the freedom to stay in the place that we choose to live and to work on it. And the cohesion policy is a development policy, and the cohesion policies have to guarantee all the basic general services in every place. In every place. This is, I think, is one of the important tasks for the cohesion policy. Yes, obviously, we need to modernize the cohesion policy. We need also that the key actors at national administration, regional administration, and local administration have to do their task in an efficient and effectiveness way. And for this, there is also a task for the simple citizen. Don't leave alone the key actors of the cohesion policy. There is an accountability of their task. There are many regions that they have their office in Brussels. I think that this region, they have to give the information to their citizens about what they do in Brussels and what they do for their citizens. Another thing that is my dream is about Erasmus. You know that maybe Erasmus is one of the important tools to improve the European consciousness for the students, but I think that we need to apply the Erasmus approach also for other people. First of all, the public administration people. With the contamination of their way to work, go to in Calabria or in Galicia, or this is very important. It is important for the civil servant of the 27 member states, but also it's important also for the civil servant of the EU administration. And for example, it's also important to promote Erasmus also for people that they don't know very well the Europe. for example, low-level employment. I think that we need to promote these tools at every level, not only for the student, that they have an European mood for per se, but also for others that they haven't. And for the civil administration, it is important because it's important to mix the different way to work. Thanks.
Thank you. Thomas, please.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat, but maybe just 8 points, very quick. The golden principles are essential. Partnership, multi-level government, place-based approach, long-term approach. Simplification is needed to have better access for the civic society, for citizens, and so forth. Regional programs are essential. If the regions cannot negotiate these programs with the national level, but also with the European Commission, you don't have an eyesight, you have then hierarchy. Regions, not local, because you need to have also an inbuilt agreement between the cities and the rural areas to find a joint approach. If you leave it to the cities on their own, if you leave it to the rural, we will not win. We need an integrated planning. We need effective coordination of public investment across all levels of government, and we have good guidelines for this from the OECD. Let's use them. We need to use the opportunity cohesion brings, because when you deal with cohesion funding in Poland, the same rules and regulation exist in all other European unions. And it is a use opportunity to use this space of joint language of structural funds of cohesion policy for a European administrative space. We should really learn from each other more than we do. There's a lot of information out, but there's too few learning, also of politicians, by the way, that the advancement comes if you apply knowledge and information into knowledge, into action. So let's think about a new European administrative space where people from the local level go into other countries for a while to see how the Disability Act is implemented, or how new energy communities can be developed. Because we are all in the same European administrative space for joint learning. We need to win the hearts, and with that you can only do it when it's also aesthetically nice, when it's reaching your soul. And I was representing the region where the Bauhaus of Dessau is, and you know the story of the Bauhaus. The Bauhaus has been a huge innovator in architecture, but also in inclusiveness. Form follows function. And it was a mayor of Dessau who invited the Bauhaus to come to Dessau, and he paid all the buildings there. So it was a local development story as well. And what is behind the new European Bauhaus is very important. We have to connect it with beauty, with inclusiveness and local actions. If we don't, we can't expect that people like it. This building is a very beautiful building, and this kind of connection to beauty is important because we also have to win the young people. And also we have an initiative of young volunteers working in cross-border cooperation, where they can learn about joint solutions. These kind of things we have to get also. We have to also get more gender equality in the debate. It's very interesting to see the gender equality, the gender balance in this panel or in this audience. It's totally different than in the main room. And we need to have more inclusiveness in the discussion, also in order to see the variety in the debate. And we have to bring it, as you said, in the next 6 weeks to Brussels, because in the next 6 weeks some fundamentals will be decided. For example, who writes the next rules and regulations? Will it be the people who know you best, the DGs working with you, or will it be somebody who is not really believing in the places? That is crucial. And so the next weeks are crucial. That's why this conference is so important. That's why this Polish presidency is so important, because you can see the beauty of the policy in a country where 50% of the funds been implemented through the regions, and they have done a great job on this. So if we are not using this opportunity for making the case for more local solution and regional empowerment, there will be we will miss the chance, and that's why this message needs to get out through all channels, so that we make sure that we can also have it for the future.
So Thomas, are you ready for your Erasmus?
We have a proposal for Erasmus.
And the phone, because it's translation, if you would like to speak.
We have a proposal for an Erasmus for local elected politicians. So we can think about something else. I think this idea of using the European administrative space for exchange also of civil service, the public sector, but also NGOs, I think is something which we really need, because this is what binds us together. The knowledge about difference, the acceptance and intercultural learning about this.
Thank you. I would not repeat indeed a lot of valuable and similar demands we have. I mean, it was said by the two previous speakers, but indeed only thing which I would like to repeat is that indeed next few months will be very crucial, and this conference is very crucial, and we need to be more vocal. I mean, all the people which know something about cohesion and understand the cohesion benefits should be more vocal, because we need to have cohesion continuation in the future, learning from cohesion for new instruments. So in that, I would just add two aspects. We believe cohesion could have a bigger coordination role in coordinating different type of EU policies, because indeed, as it was explained today also by Jan Albrecht, we have at local level normally a lot of different policies which need to be communicating to each other, and cohesion could play that role, that we have policies related to housing, related to transport, to green transport, or to disabilities, which need to come together and use the cohesion funding in a coherent way, because currently we do see too much of silos yet approach, and often indicators in one policies like national energy and climate plans, which are different from cohesion policy indicators. So we do need also more coherence between different instruments and between the EU policies, which would also simplify probably the framework for many actors which are implementing it, monitoring it, but also at EU level to enhance the dialogue between the European level, national and local level. So we believe also cohesion could play this coordination role between the different levels of policy making. So yeah, this is one of our main recommendations. Another aspect which we would like to enhance further is the added value of cohesion, because we could use more financial instruments. It was mentioned yesterday by the Court of Auditors, for the places and for type of investments which are affordable, but for certain aspects and areas and marginalized communities, we have to make the access to them and affordability a key aspect of the cohesion policy. So really help and enhance and give the grants where they are most needed. And with that, also want to spend one word still about the green investments and environment, because there are still sectors like energy community, as I mentioned, where you would advance citizen role in that, which is it's not bankable today. The banks would not give you a loan for just investing, create a community energy type of plant which is serving few families, a farm, or simply for them it's something which is not economically, they could not put that in that model. We need to make a way to enhance that. Or a person who is in a kind of social poverty to isolate their house. So we do need type of investments which need to be enhanced and part of the green transition. And nature conservation, I would say nature restoration, it's another aspect where we could see a lot of benefits from nature-based solution for adaptation solutions today. I mean, a lot of the costs of prevention could be avoided. A lot of cost of the future climate impact could be avoided if we do prevention today in a nature-based solution type of events. And this is again local level solutions which local actors normally don't have funding for. And if we leave it aside, if we don't earmark, if we don't think about it, we probably would wake up in 2050 without majority of our biodiversity and with heavy impacts on agriculture or other type of economic sectors. Yeah, I would finish with that, but I think we have our list of recommendations, which is a bit more detailed. I just wanted to highlight a few things which was not mentioned before.
Thank you, Carlos.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to go back to 3 key points, and specifically in terms of the theme today, which is on the non-material benefits and the closeness to citizens. One, of course, to strengthen cohesion core principles. That's clear. That is reiterated in every single reform debate, in the Commission's cohesion report, in the high-level group recommendations, place-based approach, partnership, multi-level governance. All of this is a given, but it is under threat with new centralized delivery models. So that's the first. The second, again, to get closer to citizens is to communicate the policy better in general. So not just to the policy stakeholders and the beneficiaries. We are all, if you like, elites here. We're part of this bubble working on cohesion policy in different ways, at different levels, at national, regional, local, from different sectors. But we are part of this community of stakeholders. It's how do you communicate to the wider public at large if you want to connect to these wider debates about discontent. And my third point is back to citizen engagement, which I see as really one of the only mechanisms to allow citizens to debate, to deliberate, which is shown and proven, as many OECD studies are starting to look at, to increase trust both amongst citizens and for institutions as well. So democratic innovations, not just participating in monitoring committees, which have long lists of agenda points to get through and don't really decide anything anyway. In general, decisions are taken beforehand or after. But actually to look at concrete interventions and deliberate amongst the public and stakeholders. And here NGOs have a big role to play because they can bring in the people to these events and meetings. So essentially to democratize through involving citizens, Europe, not just with regions, but also by the regions.
Please, at the end.
So in my opinion, I agree with most of your points here, so I won't repeat. In my opinion, the crucial thing for us, I mean, disability rights movement right now is that the cohesion policy doesn't cease to mainstream and to push for fundamental rights and compliance with CRPD. But at the same time, I would like to see more supporting mechanisms, more supporting ways from the European Commission going to managing institutions, regions, disability rights organizations, and finally citizens, because I agree with Carlos that one of our biggest problem right now is that most of persons with disabilities don't see much benefit from the European Union when they look at the life situations. So they don't recognize themselves as EU citizens, but mostly they look at national governments. I mean, when it comes to the Polish case, they look to the Polish government when they expect something. And this is really that I would like to see changing. I mean, getting involved persons with disabilities, citizens with disabilities into the systems, not only beneficiaries that service them or they getting involved them into projects.
Thank you. So, what to say at the end? I'm not courage enough to repeat what it was already said, but I would like to say that to have a brilliant panel, you need to have the brilliant panelists. So thank you one more time. It was really great to be here with you and to discuss with you. Just to sum up, and I would like just to say that Yeah, the cohesion policy is very important, and it's a very broad topic. And really, during this panel, we manage really discuss only a tiny fraction of what can be said about. Here we have the graphic note, and we will do the photos if you would like to do the photo just after the end of this panel. At the end, I would like just to encourage everyone to participate in the discussion about the cohesion policy in order to keep reminding decision makers that EU is not only about money but also about values, which have helped us to create the peace and stability in Europe. Thank you one more time, panelists. Thank you one more time, all of you. Thank you for this time together. And I was asked just to remind you that now we'll have the coffee break, but just after, we are inviting you to the main room, the auditorium at the ground floor, where we will have the final recommendation and the closing of the conference and the conclusion of the panels, because we have the parallel panels. So if you would like to listen to the conclusion of these panels and the conclusion of the conference, we would like to encourage you to go at 2:15. It will start 2:15, so we'll have the half an hour to drink a good coffee to discuss about the topic. So one more time, thank you.